That ain't supposed to be in there.
Bearing spun too, right in the house. Look at that.
It has destroyed that housing.
This guy just cranked in the brake.
So what we're doing here is, we don't like using used engines, but when we do, we want to do everything possible to ensure that we got a viable motor for our customer. Usually a used engine comes out of a vehicle. This is how you get them, especially on something new like a 2016. Shoot, yeah, this is 2018. So you're gonna get a used engine on a 2018 5.0 Cummins out of a Nissan Titan only because one has been wrecked. And I mean wrecked good, because that's an expensive truck.
That's where I got.
Oh, look here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this car's been in a wreck, dude. Let me show you here. See this bolt here that's been sheared off in the front cover?
Yeah.
Some sensor here. Look at the motor mount bolt here. Okay. The rest of it, I mean, you know, looks okay. Go get a hammer, just knock that thing off of there.
Okay.
Or you could use your air hammer and a chisel, you know, and just cut that thing off. Whatever you feel big about. You got a big pry bar? Come back here. This will be a learning moment.
Bring my toolbox closer.
What was that?
Bring my toolbox closer.
So good, dude, so good. Every move you make, every step you take, and you know, especially with the young, they're not gonna get it the first time. You're just gonna have to keep at them. I mean, it's, people wonder how you mentor people. You just gotta stay at it and try to be as polite as possible. Look, dude, give me a big old hammer. You need to get busy with that thing, dude. Give me that hammer. My legs are too sore to bend over. Ugh. Well, an oil filter's like a tin can, but that's a tough old tin can. But I'll take a little sample of this paper with me. Go ahead and cut that off. See, that's good. I've got no metallic in the oil filter. See how it's all smashed up in here?
Yeah.
Where it got jammed up? We're gonna have to replace the timing cover. Let's get it steam clean. Hey, this is part 2 of this 5-liter Cummins in a Nissan Titan that blew up and was so trashed that we couldn't rebuild the block. It spun mains, it was a pile. The customer has asked us to try to keep his budget in mind, and the only way we can hit his budget is with a used engine. Everybody out there knows how I feel about used engines. I mean, honestly, they make me nervous. But here we go. Take a look at this used engine. I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do to check it. We got this from my supplier, this 5-liter, and it's a used engine. They don't know how many miles. The thing was a total wreck, so we don't have any mileage on it. First thing I noticed when they sent it to me, I tore the manifolds off of it. It's got a lot of buildup like they do on the intake valve. So we're gonna clean that. I'm gonna clean that and everything, but what we wanna check first is the motor in good shape. And the only way we can do that is by putting it in my sim test machine here, and we're gonna run it. And before we do that, we're gonna bore scope a couple of these holes. I wanna take a look at some of the cylinder walls. Watch how slow I can turn this diesel. And I can put any piston anywhere I want. Now, obviously, I wanna drop the piston all the way down in the bottom of each stroke so I can inspect the entire cylinder wall. So here's our cylinder wall. And the piston's all the way down.
See a little bit of surface.
Now I'm gonna turn it around here. I'm gonna try to look at, this is not perfect, but we can get a pretty good shot of the entire cylinder wall. Nice cross hatch, no terrible looking marks on the cylinder wall. There's my injector tip. Here's the valves. All looks pretty good. We're gonna inspect all 8 cylinders.
I think you got a broken ring.
Okay, now this cylinder is making me a little nervous. This cylinder's had a little bit of water in it. Now, is that a problem? I mean, it is a junkyard motor. I gotta kind of make decisions here This has got me concerned here.
Vertical lines like that.
Yeah,
That's the ring land right there. That's the head gasket.
Boy, that is a mess there. The other one didn't
I
look
think you
that
got
bad.
ring problems.
Yeah, we got a problem here. Look how much gunk is up here between where the top ring comes up to the cylinder wall, and there's the head gasket area right there. So this much area on this hole, the cylinder wall doesn't look good.
150.
Even this one? See, that's a concern to me. Only 200 psi on a diesel. That ain't good. And let's check another one.
Still hear that, man. Where'd that go to?
200. Yeah, I think what we did is walnut shell blast this thing.
Okay.
And let's go ahead and make sure we got 200 in the other holes.
Okay.
My cylinder wall is a little bit of water on the wall, but I don't see any terrible issues. And I've got a lot of valve buildup. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it out of my sim test machine. We're gonna walnut shell blast those intake valves and see if we can get the compression to come up. Sitting around like that, we could have carbon under one of the valve seats. So I don't wanna condemn the motor, but again, I'm doing all this stuff on a used engine, but I don't know a better way to help a customer out to meet their budget and feel at least some amount of confidence that I've given them a decent product. So we'll keep trying to make this one okay. We got a walnut shell blaster here. Let me show you how this works. So the walnut comes up through here. Here's the filter. This is the waste. This has been used. We're injecting the walnut here and vacuuming it out there. There you go. And you can see that one hole, how clean that got that. So it looks like you got all this walnut shell blasted, and we re-ran the compression test, and we're 200 psi on all the cylinders. We got good oil pressure. I'm confident now that we've got as good as we can test it for this 5.0 Cummins. What else do you think we need to be aware of before we go sticking this motor in? I'd like to be doing some seals on it.
Yeah.
We're gonna put a new rear main seal in it. I think we ought to take the heat shields off the exhaust and make sure we don't have any, not only exhaust bolts that are missing, but be looking for blackness where maybe we have a little exhaust leak, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Remember, God gave you 5 senses, you wanna use them all. You did a nice job. Let's check this out here, man, on this walnut. Oh man, yeah, look at that. Look how clean that is all the way down in there. That's beautiful. Let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. Beautiful. This Cummins couldn't rebuild the motor, it was junk. And so we found a used motor, they're not cheap. Sim tested it, had compression was off a little bit, and of course with these EGRs, you know, the intake valves were just carboned up. So we just walnut shell blasted all the intake and exhaust valves, retested it, compression came back up, bore scoped the holes, engine looked great, ran it in the sim test, everything passed, put it in the truck, runs great, and now we got a tranny leak. Remember, condition, cause, correction, confirm. And if a shop doesn't take a good test drive and really check not only their work, but the way the rest of the systems are working, if you ship that car and there's a known problem on it and the customer comes back, you own that thing. Take that extra time and confirm your repair, and if there's other issues, document them, advise the customer, and you'll save yourself a lot of headache. Let's hear it run.
loving that.
Nice. All right. Take it on a good test drive. After we fix that tranny leak, we'll deliver a truck. Yeah. This truck, you know, I'm finding out that these Nissan Titan, they made this Duramax in them for what, 3 years we figured? Yeah.
Cummins.
Yeah, the Cummins 5.0 for just 3 years, right?
Yep.
So what we're also finding out is no one is making any parts for them. We had the tranny leak, not leaking out of the pump O-ring. It's leaking right out of between the reaction shaft, the input shaft here where the torque converter goes in. If you look at this bushing here, if any of you guys work on cars, you'll know that I shouldn't be able to push that bushing in with my fingers like that. Now the inside of this bushing, it grabbed a little bit. You can see that there, where it grabbed it, but it's not totally wore out. So I'm gonna shim the outside of this bushing. Now listen, the reason I'm doing this, that tranny is $12,000. I cannot find one. I'm not buying a used one. So I'm gonna shim this bushing so that it fits in the housing. If you look in the dealer, you go to the dealer, they make an oil pan gasket for this transmission, a gasket between the transfer case and the tranny, and that's it, man. You know, 5, 6 years old, and I can't buy a stinking tranny seal. So we're gonna shim this, and then we're gonna put this seal that we found. It seems to fit. Let's go ahead and get this done. A lot of people wonder, like, how come my shop doesn't do this and doesn't do that? I mean, sometimes this stuff, you know, it's not like you just call the parts store and say, hey man, send me over a part and everything's good. Sometimes you gotta think out of the box and be creative.
If you want to give me a minute, I could probably find a cam bearing that might.
You think? I mean,
King's got a pretty good catalog.
Before I try to shim in that, I'm going to slow down here. I'm going to get in a bearing catalog with like King bearings, their cam bearings, and see if I can get an OD to fit right. And I'm going to do a little more research. So, you know, we're at 49.5 millimeters, so we're going to look for a 50 millimeter OD. And then the ID on this is 46.5 millimeter, 46.7. You know, we've been over this. I did more shorts on this than I've ever done on anything. We're glad that we've been able to work out some contention between some other social media people about this. But again, the manufacturer does not provide the input seal for this transmission or the bushing, but through a great company in St. George Transmission. They had done this tranny before in-house, and they knew some of the part numbers, and they got us the correct seal and a bushing. Another shout out to them. Thanks guys, way to go. We're gonna deburr this bushing a little bit. Okay, now normally I would pull this pump out and separate this reaction shaft and everything out of this thing, the back side of this pump, and inspect it. We're not gonna do that because I can't get any gaskets for this transmission, and I don't want to disturb anything more inside this tranny. So we're gonna square up this bushing here, and then I'm gonna drive it home with my driver here. Keep going. Keep going. Voila. Now, you wanna make sure, you don't cut your finger, but you wanna make sure that you haven't rolled an edge in there. So we're gonna test that right now. Let's grab the torque converter, and let's make sure we haven't rolled an edge that would keep us from that torque converter going in that bushing. There, okay. So now I know I'm in the bushing. And what that bushing does, it keeps this torque converter from floating too much this way, because the seal can't take up that float. I mean, so guys, remember that whether it's an input shaft on a transmission, a tail shaft, you know, if that bushing is wore out or the shaft that goes in that bushing is wore out, a seal is never gonna fix your leak. Now we're gonna put in the seal. Now if you'll notice, the new seal has got a little bit of grease in there, but the outside I want dry. See how I've got this seal now, scattywampus? There's a word for you. You don't want that. You want to try to square that up. That's why it'll go in there nice and won't get bound up. So start it squared up. There, not pinched or anything. We're good to go. We'll put a little Vaseline on this input shaft seal here. Line up our pump tangs. We'll slide that all the way home, get it installed, test drive it. Woo-yah! This truck, the Titan, has been such an up and down, a craziness, and we finally got it done. It's completed. It's been on an 80-mile test drive, dry as a bone on that front transmission torque converter seal. And I looked up, I was just kind of thinking, why is the word Titan like? Why is this turned into some? And what is a Titan creature? Titans are ancient, gigantic creatures. Well, this thing is not an ancient. It's only 2018, but it was a gigantic creature in my life. And I hope that we all learned something from it. I know if you follow me on Instagram and Facebook and everything and TikTok, that this thing got a ton of views for not the right reason at first, but in the end, we've sparked a change in the industry where we can all help out. I hope you enjoyed what we've done here. Most famous Nissan Titan owner probably in the United States. Aaron, tell me why you brought me the truck.
I brought you the truck because I called Nissan, couldn't get help. I called a couple other shops, they're like, don't fix it. And then I started watching you guys and I figured this was the place to get it done right. So I'm grateful, I appreciate you guys fixing what you did, and hopefully I get more than 40,000 miles this time.
We got the engine fixed, and then it had the tranny leaking. What a nightmare the tranny was.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, for the whole world to hear, did we ever once call you and say, hey man, we're gonna have to sell you a $12,000 transmission?
Absolutely not. I got texts saying, hey, it's still leaking, we're figuring it out. We're gonna try to get this fixed without charging you any more money for a transmission.
Yeah,
So.
finally had that shop I told you about down in St. George. Another shout out to St. George Transmission. Excellent shop. They helped us out, they got us the right seal, and it's bone dry. Aaron, thank you so much, man.
Thanks for
Really
taking care
appreciate
of
it.
me. Yep.